Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at our first text of Colonial settlements. This one is from William Bradford, and we have to remember that William Bradford was today what we call a pilgrim. Now, this is also the word pilgrim, except it's not capitalized, right? It's this group of people that William Bradford was leading that today we call the pilgrims. But does anybody know what a pilgrim is? And this is something worth thinking about and reflecting upon. What a pilgrim was, this was especially popular back in the Middle Ages, as well as during the Renaissance. A pilgrim was someone who undertook a trip to, say, for example, the Holy Lands, or maybe there would be a cathedral nearby that would house important relics of a saint. So this would allow this individual, this man or woman, the opportunity to travel for spiritual enlightenment and enrichment. So then what would happen with the pilgrim is that he or she would leave his or her home, right? Then would go and visit that specific site, which is religious in nature, and then would return back home. And if you're familiar with archetypes, this is one of the most common archetypes that we have in literature. This is the journey of the hero, right? Where there's the quest, this person's going on, and of course, the trip would not be easy, trials and tribulations, but then he or she would always return home with a gift, right? So the pilgrim would go back to his or her village and share the different stories about the travel, as well as, what happened with their soul, being elated, encountering this spiritual rejuvenation. Now, let's reflect upon this with pilgrim. All right, so here we are, England. I know this is England. Then, right, there's the Atlantic Ocean, and then way over here, what do we have? I don't know, a little Florida maybe, up in, right? So what are the pilgrims doing? But what are they not doing? Right, there's no return. So this is kind of interesting, is that there's some similarities between pilgrim with the little p and the capital P, but the big difference, there's no return trip. Right? Now, a lot of folks today, when we sit down and we read, say for example, the accounts from Bradford or those of Winthrop, we really don't approach them in the proper mindset, proper frame from the time. But here's something that's really significant. What the Pilgrims and the Puritans were doing, it was the equivalent today of going to the moon. Yes, it was the same thing. This journey, it took months to get across. If something happened during the journey, I'm sorry. There's no way to send out a relief vessel. There's no such thing as, phones or Morse code or anything. And when they get over here to the New World, if something goes wrong, oh well, again, they're really going out literally on a limb. We really can't fully appreciate and reflect upon that. So now, when we start to dive in to these different texts, one thing I noticed, I don't know if you did, but there's one word repeated many times, not only in Bradford, but also in Winthrop. And you know what that word is? God. And really, that's not surprising, given that here we are with the Pilgrims, with Bradford. And then the Puritans with Winthrop. And it's really not surprising. So what I did, I was like, I'm kind of curious. Let me just go through and count the number of times that God is mentioned. And Bradford's text, right, it's pretty brief. It's just about 10 pages. There's some half pages in there. So a half and a half equals whole. So about ballpark 10 pages. There's 13 times in 10 pages that the author mentions God. Then, Winthrop, 9 pages, 27 times that God is referenced. So, what does that tell us about not only these authors, but about these people going into these and beginning these colonial settlements? Well, something very, very easy to pick up is that they viewed themselves very differently than people view themselves today as, right? These are a pilgrim people. These are people who are entering into a covenant with God. They see themselves as the elect. And this is something from the period overview that was mentioned, right? With the elect, the world is divided into 2 groups, saints and strangers. Of course, the elect, those are the saints. Those are the people that God has predestined for salvation. Everyone else predestined by God for doom. Those are the strangers. Now, the boats, the ships they're carrying to the new world, it's not only the elect, right? It's not only the saints, but there's some strangers in here too, okay? We have to remember that they're getting, Bradford and Winthrop, they both have financial support from merchants. So there's the seamen, there's probably, we know for a fact, lots of indentured servants on board as well. So these boats are not peopled only by these 2 different groups. There's plenty of strangers. So that allows us, this fact allows us to see how they're thinking. So let's take a look here at Bradford's passage from the heading title of their voyage and how they passed the sea, and of their safe arrival at Cape Cod. Now, under September 6, there's the account of a lusty, able-bodied seaman who, when he sees some of the pilgrims who are suffering from seasickness, he taunts them and cusses them because he's, lusty and able-bodied and he's used to the sea. And he's not bothered by it, but he sees them just retching over the side of the ship as they're going across up and down the stormy ways. But what happens to him? And we're at the 10-minute mark, so we're going to pick up with that in the next video.